Hey everybody, how you doing? Damian Zamora, CEO of Go Mobile Solutions. Welcome to the Go Mobile Happy Hour Hangout. Today I'm joined by my friend Mark Thompson, and today he's going to be teaching you a strategy for finding complementary businesses that are already working with your ideal clients, aka lead sources, baby. Also, how to build relationships that allow you to access their client Rolodex, and exactly what to do to close 40% more deals. Mark has been a good friend of mine. He's a super experienced. He's one of the internet marketing OGs, but he's been known for creating amazing SaaS products that really, do amazing things in lead generation and client procurement, some of which the Go Mobile community is familiar with. Mark has agreed to come on to this Go Mobile Happy Hour Hangout to share with you these strategies and walk you through a free tool that you can choose, that you can use right now to find a prospect contact details, right? That's what we want. Where can we find more lists? Where can we find more leads, right? So that we can sell mobile apps or maybe social media strategy sessions or the other things that you're sharing out there. You're going to learn how to outsource a majority of your agency's work, including SEO, marketing, PPC, social services, and more. Because my guest, Mark Thompson, has experience not only running an agency, but also running SaaS organizations, and he brings a ton of experience to this happy hour hangout today. So saddle up, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to turn on the notifications so that you can be notified every time we make a drop. With no further ado, Mr. Mark Thompson. Mark Thompson, how you doing, bud?
Well, I love the energy as always.
Man, welcome on, man. I know we have it tight, dude. So I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate that you've jumped on and willing to do this for us today. So are you pretty excited about this? I'm pretty excited about it.
I am. It kind of goes back to my old roots. I mean, I've been doing online marketing, and I used to run a marketing agency 15 years ago. So it's one of the first things that I ever did when I started my own business. So it's kind of fun to kind of go back in the past and kind of teach you guys what's worked for me, as well as, a lot of things have evolved, but some things have stayed the same. So I'm excited.
And this is going to be a short happy hour today. So thank you everybody for joining. Let's take it away, man.
I'm going to give you a little bit of background on who I am, my kind of expertise. So, I've been off on my own, as an online entrepreneur for about 15 years now. I got fired from my very last job, my last 9 to 5. And, at the time it was a bit scary, but it was a blessing in disguise. So I had worked for a couple different marketing agencies, before I went off on my own. And so I really got exposed to a lot of different marketing strategies. So everything from search engine optimization, pay-per-click, social media, email marketing, you name it. I was a sponge for 3 years, just learning everything I possibly could learn on how to, work with clients, how to get them results. And then ultimately I learned fairly early on that I didn't want to work for the man. I didn't want to bust my butt and, put money in his pocket when I could do it for myself. And so I knew that time was going to come. I just didn't know exactly when. And so for about 5 years, I worked for a couple different marketing agencies, and maybe the writing was on the wall. I kind of had one foot out the door, I would say. I was getting ready to start my own marketing agency. And I think the company that I used to work for that let me go, they kind of saw that, and they brought me into a room, and it was a tough conversation. At the time I'd just bought a new car. I was, recently married. And so, I started to have responsibilities, and, but it was one of those things that I needed to have that moment, getting fired, and that was my aha moment, to be like, okay, I need to, everything that I know, right, it's kind of prepared me for this time for me to go off on my own and do it. Right. And at the time I didn't have kids. So, I didn't have as much responsibility as I do today. So I was able to take a little bit of risk, but I was confident in kind of what, my abilities and what I had learned over the first 5 years of, being a online marketer and working with clients. So what I had to figure out was how I was going to reach out and find clients, right? I was starting from scratch. I had no clients. I had no, social proof. I didn't have case studies. Case studies that I did have were for, clients from my previous agency. So I had to kind of, get in the weeds and kind of grind for a while. And, finding your first customer is always, the hardest thing to do. Right. So, what I took almost a different approach. So what most people do is they go out and they start knocking on doors and reaching out to potential businesses, right? You're reaching out to plumbers, you're reaching out to restaurants, anybody in your local area, friends, family. And so, I wanted to take a different approach because I tried that in the early days. For the first couple months, I was doing that. And I quickly realized that it was very hard to find the decision maker. I was doing a lot of prospecting. I was trying to get my foot in the door. And when someone doesn't know who you are, you're always skeptical, right? And it's just by nature, people are skeptical if they don't know who you are. You don't have a brand name. You're not an influencer. You don't have case studies to back up what you're saying. And so I found it really, really difficult to reach out and to close deals. And so I took a step back and I tried to figure out a different approach. And so the approach that I found that worked tremendously well, and I'm glad that I went down this direction, and it really helped lay the foundation for my business, was I started to reach out to complementary businesses, right? So web design companies, web development companies. And so, as I said before, a lot of the services that I could offer were marketing related. So again, it was ranking websites in the search engines. Back in the day, it was relatively easy to do. Nowadays it's a little bit more difficult. Things have changed a lot, but, and so I was like, all right, well, hey, if web design companies are creating websites for their customers, odds are they're going to have to market those websites, right? They need to generate leads and sales. Same thing with web development companies, right? They're developing apps or websites and they don't necessarily have the marketing expertise. Or even working with marketing agencies, I actually found that to be one of the best partnerships that I've ever done. And so I live in the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina. And so I just started going through Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, all the outskirts towns, and just trying to find complementary businesses that could kind of cater to my skill set. And so I knocked on, I basically emailed every single web design company, development firm, and even marketing agencies. And I quickly realized that it was a perfect fit. It was a perfect fit because I was able to build relationships, and I fast forwarded, I kind of moved into the future as quickly. I had all this Rolodex of all these web design companies, and they're like, yeah, we've built hundreds of websites for customers. And, once they build the website, usually that's it, they're done. And they don't have any other complementary services to offer. So I found that it was a win-win situation for me to say, hey, well, let me come in. I could either be a preferred partner or preferred vendor, however you want to position it. And, I could offer marketing services, or we can do a white label agreement where, I work under your brand and I'm just the marketing arm, and it can be an add-on service to help generate additional revenue. And it was the greatest thing that I ever did, because for the first couple months, I couldn't even find a client. And then within one or two partnerships, I had so many potential leads that were warmed up. Right. They already gave me the introduction. So I would just say, hey, go and let's start with 5 or 10 potential customers, right? Or customers that you have that we could potentially sell these add-on services to. And it was so easy. We already had the decision makers. We already knew who they were. They're going to get on a call with us because they've already done business with the other company that I'm partnering with. And it was just like a slam dunk. It was almost too easy to sell these people. And so, so web design companies, web development companies, marketing agencies, I even started to, and this was probably maybe 6 months after I started to really get my feet wet, was I started to work with old school, like traditional sales reps. So people who were selling radio ads and TV spots. And, back in the day, that stuff used to sell really well. And what's cool is, they have, a lot of these people have decades of experience with, dealing with their customers, but their services are a bit outdated and obsolete. And so they're trying to figure out, well, how do I leverage this network and sell services that are current, that are, that people actually want. And so working with all these complementary businesses just made it so easy. So it was a little bit of a different approach. Has anyone ever tried this approach before? Have you typically gone the traditional path where you go direct for a client? Well, so let me we'll break down this strategy a little bit further, and hopefully you guys can apply this. If you are a marketing agency, great. If not, it could still apply to other niches and other businesses, this type of approach. So what I started to do in the early days was I would start with small agencies or contractors. So in the very beginning, I actually found independent contractors who were just building websites for their clients, and they would be either on Upwork or any of these freelancing websites. I even found people on Craigslist, any way that you can find them, right? What's great about independent contractors is it's easy to get a hold of them, right? It's not like there's a huge barrier to entry. They're more apt to listen to you and have a discussion and see if there's a win-win situation, right? And so that was what I actually did when I first got my 3 to 5 partnerships were independent contractors. Then I started to branch out and find some smaller agencies. So usually these are agencies of 3 to 5 people. They have maybe a designer on staff, they have a backend developer on staff, and they have like the owner who's kind of the sales guy, right? And those were relatively easy to reach out to and have those discussions. And so what I actually did in the beginning was I would just offer my services for free. And that was just a way to at least get the ball rolling, right? And I'm all about, as an entrepreneur, I'm all about building momentum. And I feel like, so while I'm not going to give away my services for free to everybody, at least it's a way to get some case studies in the door and say, hey, well, here's what I just did for this restaurant down the street, or here's what I just did with this insurance company. So even if you have to do that, if you're just starting out, I'm sure some of you guys are maybe just starting your business or just starting your marketing agency, you have to start somewhere. And sometimes you have to swallow your pride and give away something for free in hopes that in return, they'll come back, or you'll at least build that foundation.
So Lloyd is asking, what types of services are you offering?
Yeah. So, in terms of the services that I was offering at the time, a lot of search engine optimization, a lot of pay-per-click. Social media wasn't as big as it is now. Obviously, things have flipped, and things like AI and video and social are kind of leading the pack. And content creation, all that kind of stuff. But search engine optimization, as I said before, it was relatively easy to rank websites. So I could go in there, offer those services for free. Sometimes within a week, I could have their website ranking on the first page, and they were ecstatic. And then once I got in the door from that, then I could start offering additional services. So what I like to do, and so one thing that I would recommend that you do, and one issue, I don't want to say an issue, but looking back on it, one mistake that I made was trying to. And what I found was, I was a one-man shop, right? And I was also outsourcing some of the tedious tasks that were involved with just executing on whatever strategy. And I found that, I was trying to do kind of a holistic marketing approach and do all these different things. And I noticed that it was starting to be a bit confusing, hard to manage, and then also hard to produce results and convey those results for all the different strategies that I was doing. So if I could do it over again, start out with offering one service and being the very best at it. So whether that's, mobile, or whether that's AI or video or social or SEO or content creation, whatever it is that you feel you're the best at and that you have, a great strategy and you know how to produce results, then that is where I would start at. And so I see a lot of people spreading themselves too thin and trying to do too much. So start small and just be great at one thing. The other thing that I would recommend is focusing on a service that has higher margins, especially if you start to partner with companies. Depending on what that relationship looks like, it's always nice to have higher margins. And one of the reasons I actually went into software is just because the margins are so much higher than a service-based business. Obviously, a service-based business, you need to spend more time nurturing and managing the relationship. It's not to say that you can't have high margins, but they're typically not as high as a digital product that you create once and you're selling it 24/7 and you scale it out that way. So that's one of the reasons that I did shift from the traditional service route over to SaaS and digital products. But again, there's no reason why you can't scale a service-based business. And so focus on the services that have higher margins and has a direct monetary value. Go ahead.
So just a quick thing for all of you that are on here that currently sell mobile apps with Go Mobile Solutions, he's speaking right to you because the margins you have there are fantastic, right? Some of the best I've seen. So that I highly agree with you too, Mark. You focus on the high margin services. It takes a whole lot less of them to make a whole lot more money,
Exactly. And so the other part of this is having direct monetary value. So what I mean by that is the business owner is able to see a real, difference in their bottom line revenue, right? The leads that are coming in or the sales that you're generating or whatever it is that you're offering. One thing that I started to notice was with search engine optimization in the beginning, it was very easy to say, okay, well, these are the leads that we generated. Like people are searching these keywords and they're filling out your form and we're able to do conversion tracking. And it was very easy to do. Then it started to get just much, much harder to show results because we weren't able to get on the first page of Google as easy as we used to. And so I just found like, it was not sustainable, right? And you'll notice a lot of the SEO companies nowadays, they're not even like quote unquote SEO companies. They're more content generation, social companies now. And that's really where things have changed. So sometimes you need to adapt and change, just depending on the environment and really demand, right? And also being able to quantify the investment that they're putting into you and being able to deliver a return on the investment. So in the beginning was easy, started to get harder. And that's one of the reasons that I started to pivot and move towards products and digital products more specifically. But make sure that whatever service that you're offering, you're able to show some sort of monetary value. Or if it's not monetary, then at least you're saving time, right? You're doing usually one or the other. You're either saving people time by making things more efficient, which at the end result will either save money or generate more revenue, or you're generating leads, sales, something like that. And then once you have really, honed your craft on having one great service, right? And when I say that could take years, right? Then you can start to look for expansion revenue or bolt-on services or add-on services. And so that, building, an efficient machine is easier said than done. And so one of the things that I always try to do is systematize everything that I do and try to make it as efficient as possible. So with things like AI now, I mean, like so much can get done just by a bot and software that we couldn't really do, 15 years ago. So even more so nowadays, you should be more efficient with everything that you do, be leaner. Unfortunately, a lot of jobs are going to be removed, right? They're going to be replaced. I mean, you're seeing, so I actually just created my very first video with an AI voiceover. And I was looking at all these voiceover websites and they were going to charge me like $2,000, $3,000. And what I did was there was a website, it's a brand new AI service. They have all these different, voice talents, which are bots, they're software, right? And I produced a voiceover with this AI talent.
Was it DID?
What's that?
Was it DID?
I don't remember. There were probably 3 or 4 different ones out there. I could probably find it after this.
We're playing with some of them. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. So we created this video and I sent it to 5 people and I was just like, hey, what are your thoughts on the video? And I didn't really like ask them anything specific about the voiceover, but I was just trying to see if they could tell the difference between a real person and an AI bot, right? And they listened to it and they're like, oh, it's great. Or me, I do a couple things, but no one ever said, man, this sounds robotic. Like it sounds unnatural. And so I told them after the fact, I'm like, well, guess what? That audio, that voiceover was actually, created by AI, and they were blown away, just blown away at it. And so, one of the things, I mean, AI is moving at a very fast pace. So I know it's hard to kind of wrap your head around how you can have real use cases for it, but definitely carve out some time because it's going to apply to every industry, every niche. And if you're not leveraging AI, you're going to be left in the dust because you're going to be paying a lot more to fulfill on something or to implement something that an AI can do with the click of a button. And it's only getting better every day. And it's getting kind of scary, but anyways. So kind of coming back to, what we're talking about with partnerships. So it's always important to allow for a warm introduction with the prospect. So, you're hoping that, the partner that you have, they did great work, and for their customer. And so it should be kind of a slam dunk that you'll at least get the meeting, right? If so, just a warm introduction saying, hey, this is, so-and-so either, with our company, we're now offering this service, or, hey, this guy's an expert. He's a consultant that's been working with us. He's gotten great results for some of our other clients. Love to, have him talk to you about your website that we designed for you. We hope that you love it. But hey, now it's time to start marketing it. So make sure you have that warm introduction, and really things completely change. So just kind of skipping around here, going to the results. What this allowed me to do is 0 time prospecting, which if anyone's done any type of lead generation, the thing that's the worst is prospecting, is doing the research, figuring out who you need to talk to, and kind of breaking the ice and trying to, when people are getting hundreds of emails a day, you get lost in the fray, right? So how do you rise above that? And so this was just kind of a direct path to the decision maker from day one. And I started to close about 60% of my leads. And it was almost too easy, just because of the relationship that was built and the trust that I was able to kind of piggyback off. And so on top of closing more deals, I was able to charge about 50 to 75% more because of that relationship and that trust. So, and they stayed with me about 3 times longer. So it's a win-win situation for everybody, because you can afford to to give a certain percentage depending on what the arrangement is with your partner, but you can you can afford that because you're cutting down the prospecting. It's an easier sell, and hopefully you have implemented some systems in place to have a higher return or higher margins on the services that you're offering. So, so going back to the strategy here is, so on top of closing more deals, I was able to charge about 50 to 75% more because of that trust. So, and they stayed with me about 3 times longer. So it's a win-win situation for everybody, because, or it wasn't a very good fit. You can afford to give a certain percentage depending on, or that client that, you can afford that the services that you're going to provide are not going to, because you're cutting the easier sell, and hope if you found a good fit, right? So hopefully you have implemented a higher return or higher margins on the services that you're offering. So going back to the strategy here is, one thing that I learned on top of closing more deals, I was able to charge about 50 to 75% more because of that trust. So, and they stayed with me about 3 times longer. So they have other things that they're worried. It's a win-win for everybody, because you can afford to give a certain percentage, what the arrangement is with your partners, depending on, what the, you can afford that because you're cutting the easier sell. Hopefully you have find that life is just so much easier that way. So I'm not sure if you guys can relate to that, but once I started to turn down clients, and what's ironic about it is when you start to turn down clients, they come back, and that price that you gave them maybe originally, and that they kind of balked at it, they actually come back and they're like, you know what? Okay, I'm ready. And then maybe 3 months later, you say, well, actually I raised my prices. Now that price is, an extra $1,000 more. And it gives you some level of credibility. The fact that you said, hey, I don't think we're a good fit, or, hey, maybe now's not the right time. Maybe, when your business is a little bit more mature and you can afford my services. So it's kind of ironic that when you say no, that it actually leads to more business. Another thing, and this applies to, for software. So one of the, and if you guys were on the last call that I did with Damien's group here, so I told you guys about how I recently sold Pay Kickstart, which is a billing and affiliate management solution. And so one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was waiting to raise our prices. Our prices stayed the same for about 3 years, even though the product was maturing, we were adding more value, and our competitors' pricing was way higher. And in the beginning, maybe it's okay, right, just to kind of get your foot in the door. but at some point you need to know your worth and your value. And so I would highly recommend raising your prices every 6 months. Now, I'm not saying you need to go and do a 50% raise every 6 months, right? At some point, you're going to reach, opposition. There's going to be a threshold that you reach where it's like, okay, now we're in the sweet spot. But I urge you to push the limits. Okay. And you'll be surprised at not only, I found that just the quality of clients that I was bringing in, it was just better the more up market I went, and the higher I raised my prices. So you can always be not only tweaking the amount that you're charging, but also the offering. So I know, like in software, we're always tweaking, like, hey, what features should we add in the different buckets, right? The different plans that we have, which features have more value. And so even from a service-based business, right, maybe you're offering a couple different services, which one has the most value? And don't be afraid to, raise those rates or offer. So work on the structure and the plans and the pricing, right? They all kind of go together. Another thing is revisiting prospects who didn't close. So, and you can do this in the offline and online world. So we call this reactivation sequence. And all you're really doing is sending out an email. I think I wrote up an example here. So yeah, so this is how easy the email is. And ironically enough, we probably get around a 40% response rate. So all we say is, first name, is now a better time. And we say, hey, first name, just checking to see how things are going. Has anything changed since the last time we spoke in regards to whatever it is that you were talking about? And just so timing is everything, right? I mean, just because someone said no now doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to say no 6 months from now. So we actually have an email that gets sent out every 6 months. And we basically say the same thing. We might rephrase this a little bit differently, but we basically just say, hey, how are things going? And just trying to be top of mind for them, because many people will respond and just be like, hey, you know what? I actually did want to, reach out to you. Think we're in a better position to use your services, or, hey, I remember you talking to me about X, Y, and Z. I'd like to learn more about it. Maybe we can, schedule a call. So don't be afraid to do this. Selling software, maybe someone who canceled, maybe they were a customer for a year, they canceled. Maybe they sold their business, they have different circumstances. Don't be afraid to reach out to them constantly, every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, whatever it is, whatever the cadence is, because many of those people, as long as you treated them well, right, and you had a good product and great service, they'll come back. Sorry, I'm not sure if let's see, people associate quality with higher prices. That's absolutely true, right? I mean, like, you take, and it's like a watch, right? I mean, you take like a Rolex that's for 20 grand, or a basic watch for $100, right? They're both watches, but there's perceived value, obviously, with the brand recognition, but just even raising your prices, and hopefully kind of who you're going after, right? If you have a low price point, then it's more of a volume play. If you're, the more you go up market, it's more of a customized support role where maybe you have a dedicated account manager, so you may have more overhead, but hopefully you're charging for it and you're making up for it based on your pricing. Right, so we talked about the result, and so let's talk about kind of the outreach strategy. So how do I actually go about reaching out to these different potential partners? So the first thing I do is I'll first send out a cold email, and I'll keep it hyper personalized. So I'm not using any type of software. I am manually writing these, but the response rates are through the roof. Like I mean, I'll probably reach out to, for every 100 people that I reach out to, 96% of them I will reach at some point. And so this is the sequence that I usually go through. So the first thing I'll say is, and usually, this mainly works in a local area. So obviously start there. Once you've kind of, hammered out your local area and you want to expand, hopefully you already have business and you'll have money to kind of spend on advertising, but this works great in local markets. So subject is quick coffee next to your office. So one thing I like about this subject line is say, hey, quick coffee, meaning like, hey, it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes of your time, and next to your office. So they don't have to go and travel, an hour to meet me. I'll meet them. And and sometimes I'll even put the name of the coffee shop right in the headline. but I'll also do that in the body. So I'm like, hey, first name, are you available for a quick 10-minute coffee at Starbucks around the corner from your office? Or even, mention the street that it's on. So it could even be more personalized. And so you'll notice one thing that I did there. You may or may not have noticed it, but I didn't even introduce myself, right? So many people are like, hey, I'm so and so. And so I went out and just like, hey, let's meet for a 10-minute coffee. And so one thing I do say, given you build websites or whatever it is that they do, odds are your clients need to market them and generate leads, sales from it, right? And so then I start to get into the value. So I've been helping local Raleigh businesses generate 50 to 100 leads per month, and have been partnering with web design firms like yours to be an extension of your business, bolting on complementary services. And then what I say is I'll add another and then insert the result that you have been able to get for your partner. So typically I'll add another 10 to 20K a month of revenue to your business in the first 6 months without you having to do anything, right? So it's almost like a no-brainer, right? It's like, what business owner that is working with clients that wouldn't want to just say, hey, I have this partner that, does complementary services, and you can earn a cut of it just for basically introducing us, right? So it's almost like an affiliate program for services. So love to share more. Does Tuesday at 9 a.m. work for you? So this alone usually does the trick, right? It's personalized enough. They know that I've done the research. I'm talking about a local coffee shop on this street. I know that you guys build websites. I know, so you've done your due diligence, and maybe you even go on LinkedIn, see maybe they won an award, or maybe there's something even more personalized that you can do just to kind of get their attention in the email. Now, if that doesn't work, then what I'll do is I'll do a LinkedIn connection. So I'll find them on LinkedIn or some social media, maybe they're on Facebook, whatever it is, and I'll connect with them that way. And so hopefully maybe, they read my email, but they just kind of bypassed it. And then they see that I connected with them on LinkedIn. So maybe they're more open to accepting my request and talking to me there. If not, what I'll do is I'll do the LinkedIn connection. And then a couple of days later, I'll say, hey, sent you a LinkedIn request. And so hopefully maybe they don't go on LinkedIn that often, or maybe they just overlooked it. Hey, first name, I'm not sure if you received my email a few days ago. I just sent you a LinkedIn connection request. Happy to connect there if it's more convenient. So sorry for the typos, but anyways. So if I don't get them on that first email, I'm probably going to get them on that second email. Now, another strategy that you can use, you can even do a third email, or you can actually use this as the first email, is, hey, first name, I recorded a video for you, or personal video for you, or something like that. So something that conveys that you took the time to record a quick video. And so, hey, was checking out, insert company, recorded a quick 30-second video to introduce myself. Love to know if coffee at Starbucks on Front Street works next week, right? So they obviously saw that I took the time to personalize the video, create a video for them, personalize it, and do more of a personalized approach, as opposed to all the spam emails that everybody gets every single day, dozens, probably hundreds of them every single day. It's just a way to kind of stand out. Okay. Now, if that all doesn't work, same rules apply for what we talked about with the reactivation campaign. Hey, first name, is now a better time? It's been a little while since our meeting over coffee last May, or you can just say, hey, I know I reached out to you 3 months ago. Maybe it just wasn't a very good time. And I can say, over the last 3 months, we've been crushing it with new lead pipeline funnel which has been implementing for our clients around a 76%, basically just inserting the results that you've been getting. So maybe there's a new service, or there's a new strategy that's been working really well for your clients. It's a nice excuse to reach out to them and say, hey, I was just thinking about you. I know we didn't have a chance to connect 3 months ago. Maybe now's a better time. Or, hey, we went out to coffee, didn't lead to a partnership. That's fine. But maybe 3-6 months down the road, maybe the circumstances have changed, right? Maybe, they're low on clients, and they're not busy right now. And they're like, you know what? We need to bring in some revenue. Let's bring this guy in and let's start selling our clients the services that he has to offer. Now, another thing you can do, right? So what I'll usually do, depending on the size of the business, I will, I'll try to reach out to the decision maker. Who's the decision maker? If it's a small business, usually it's just going to be the owner, right? It's the founder or the president, so it's usually pretty obvious who that person is. If the company, maybe it's an agency that has 10, 20, 30 employees, So maybe you're not going after the owner, but you're going after, the director of marketing or sales or some director role. And so what you can do is find someone else in the company. And so just start working your way down the hierarchy, right? Until you find someone. And sometimes maybe you even take a bottom to top approach and you find someone who works at the company. They don't have a lot of pull, but if it's worth your while to invest additional time into that particular business, because maybe it's going to yield a bigger opportunity, then work your way down, right? Work with the intern or the person that had just started there. And maybe they're an actual developer, or they're a designer, or whatever it is, right? They're the link builder for this team, right? So talk to them and say, hey, just wanted to reach out. Who's the appropriate person to talk to about partnerships, right? Or collaborations, that type of thing. So sometimes it could be a little bit easier. It takes a little bit more work. There's a few more steps involved. But if you're really trying to go after someone and you can't get a hold of the head honcho, you can work either your way from the top down or from the bottom up. Let's see. Now, in terms of implementing all of this stuff that we talked about, right? So, just for sake of time, I know we don't have a lot of time with us. As I talked about before, I'm a systems guy, so I'm always trying to find ways to get back time in my day, right? It's always the one thing that we have, only so much time, right? We can always generate more money, but you only have so much time in the day. And so I'm always trying to figure out what are ways that I can optimize my time. And so, and I always told my wife this. So my wife, she's an interior designer. And so she's the one she's trying to do everything right now. And it's been, it's kind of a hard lesson for her to learn, but she wants to be in control of everything. And I totally get that, right? As an entrepreneur, we always want to be in control. And it's really, really hard to let go and to outsource stuff and to rely on other people to be doing things. And so right now, my wife she's doing everything. She's talking to the client. She's, putting together the furniture and the stuff. And she's hanging all the stuff. And I'm like, hun, just focus on generating new business, right? That she works with builders. She works with, individual homeowners. I'm like, go find more builders, because that's your target audience, because they can introduce you to the clients, especially, if they're, a higher end home, they're willing to spend more with you. Don't worry so much about putting the bolts in, the dresser, right? And so same thing should apply with whatever service that you're offering. So try to figure out from the service that you're offering, what is taking up the most time, because odds are it's not going to correlate directly with revenue, right? You need to be spending your time on whatever is driving the most revenue. And if that is most of the time, that means reaching out and talking to other business development type stuff, right? Getting more and more business, not actually implementing the strategy. Now, in the early days, you may have to be a hybrid, right? You may have to wear a bunch of different hats, and that's totally fine. But as soon as you can outsource, even if it's the smallest task, do it, right? Find someone for $5 an hour who can do data entry or do link building or whatever it is, the service that you offer. Figure out what's taking up the most time and start hiring out. And there are so many websites out there that are great freelance websites to find people that can do a lot of this work. And so go on places like Upwork and Fiverr, and even something like Amazon MTurk, which a lot of people have never even heard of, but it's a really cool, you can get, if you have something like a repetitive task that needs to get done, there are people that will do this stuff for pennies. So there's no excuse why you can't find people to do this at an affordable rate where you can hopefully build it into your services, into your pricing, and make a good buck. And all you're really doing is you're steering the ship. You're managing it. You're making sure that you're doing quality control. And then always be implementing and refining, right? So especially with, marketing related services, marketing has changed a lot over the last few decades. So you should always be reiterating and refining, right? Implement, refine, implement, refine. It should never, ever just be like, okay, this is our process and that's it. You should always be reiterating and refining and optimizing in all different aspects, whether it's implementation, right? It's doing specific tasks, whether it's even finding I think of my team as like running a football team, like an NFL pro team. If I can replace someone and find someone that's better, I'm going to do it. Now it's like, I know it sounds kind of harsh to say, well, I'm just going to go and fire this person because I found someone better, but business, it's business, right? And so obviously if there's someone who's loyal and there's someone I can train and that listens and does a good job, I'm going to keep that person. However, if there's someone that's just kind of getting by and you're paying them and they're doing okay work, why not go and find other people who and give them a shot, right? And so I've done that with developers, I've done it with designers, and I'll say, hey, like, hey, developers, I'm going to hire 3 people at a time. And out of those 3 people, I know that 1, maybe 2 is going to work. I know one of them is going to drop off really quick. They're just not going to be a good fit, but you really don't know until you actually test them out. And so what I like to do is, it's great to have a resume. It's great to have references and see all their expertise and, how great they are, but you really don't know until till you start to give them some jobs. And so what I like to do is hire a couple people and say, hey, this is going to be a quick 2-week test. I'm going to just see how you do with it. I'm going to see how you follow instructions. I'm going to see how you think outside the box. And what you find is there's going to be a winner in there, right? There's going to be someone who rises to the top, someone who's asking questions, who wants to do better, who is always like, hey, I need more work. I need more work, right? Those young guns. And you need those. Every business needs those. And so don't just settle for the person that, has been around for 20 years and they think they're the greatest thing. Find that person who's hungry. So that's what I've always done, both in the offline world and online world. Now kind of bringing this all, my whole experience, full circle. So, I started in the offline world and I had a lot of knowledge. I had a lot of expertise and experience, but I wanted to figure out a way to bring it online, because I kind of knew where my passion was starting to go. I'm like, man, I want to live the internet lifestyle. I want to be able to work remotely wherever I want to on my laptop, whenever I want, 24/7. I want to be able to make money that way. And that's always been my approach. After seeing it was kind of hard to scale the offline side of things, unless I just hired more and more people. So I was like, well, why can't I just sell my knowledge? What if I just create a course or a membership program and sell it 24/7, right? It just lives on a web page and I sell that, right? And everybody here has some superhero power, right? In some capacity, some niche, some strategy, whatever it is, you could always teach someone. There's always going to be someone that wants to learn from you and that more about a specific topic. Even if you only know, 50% more, there's always someone that's willing to pay you for your time and your knowledge. So I started to create programs, and actually the first product I ever created, and I do need to wrap this up pretty quickly, but I created what's called the Link Builders Toolkit, and it was just an Excel file, and it showed people where to go to build backlinks. And it was literally a CSV, and I sold it for $20. And that was the first digital product that I ever created. And it didn't do that well. I mean, but the thing is, I didn't really have a good marketing strategy, but I wanted to learn the ropes of how to sell a product online, a digital product online. I'd never done that before. I just, done service-based work. And so what I would recommend doing is trying to blend offline and online, right? Because there's always going to be an opportunity for you to sell to the people that you're talking to. Maybe you're not going to be able to implement services for them, but so maybe you're talking to someone and you're like, you know what, this just isn't going to be a good fit, because I obviously know that you're trying to just extract as much information out of me as possible so you can go and do it yourself. Some people are like that, and that's totally fine. But you know what? Instead of me implementing this for you, I actually created a step-by-step program for people just like you who want to go in, get their hands dirty and be able to learn step-by-step how to do whatever it is. And, and go and pay $200 for it or $500 for it or $1,000 for it, whatever it is, right? So there's always going to be opportunities. And I love blending offline and online kind of together as one business. So I would strongly recommend that you guys do that. And just really quick, I just took some screenshots of people like going in. So it could be as simple as this, right? Go into a Facebook group where there's lots of engagement that's relevant to whatever it is that the product is that you want to create. You don't even need to have a following. Go in there and just show results, right? So like all this guy, like what you can achieve for your clients with cold emails. And so this guy's just showing proof, revenue proof. This guy said, we deliver what we promise. If you want to level up on your cold email game, ask me a question in the comments below. And he's just showing the open rates, the amount of replies and opportunities. Like here's another guy showing his screenshots. So what you'll start to notice is there's comments underneath all this, right? People asking, man, how'd you do that? What, like, I want to know your approach, right? You can start to build your email list. You can start to network with these people. And so what I would recommend doing is you start to sell them, right? So what I do is like a little teaser post in the group, make sure that it's allowed from whatever group that you're in. Say, you may want to just check with the admins just to make sure, but don't hard sell it, right? Sell the end result. And then the comments are going to come in and people are gonna be like, hey, how'd you do that? I'd love to learn. Then you book a meeting, right? In a direct message, right? Send them a link. Hey, let's get on a quick 10-minute call. And then you have two different options: sell them the service or sell them the digital product, right? And you can kind of see where the conversation is going to go, and you can tailor your conversation and your pitch toward that. And so some people, right? And I always look at my clients in tiers. There's always people who are going to spend the bare minimum, right? They're going to spend a couple $100 a month with me. Then there's going to be the tier that's going to, they have the ability to spend a couple $1,000s, right? Then there's going to be the higher end guys. Now it's going to be a smaller fraction, but there's going to be people who are willing to spend 5, 10, 20 grand a month with me, right? Few and far between. But if I don't have an offer for each of those tiers, that's money that you're leaving on the table. So always think about when you're, for anything, for services or on a software side of things, always have things in tiers, right? Have your free trial, have a freemium model, right? There's a lot of freemium models where it's like, hey, you get this for free, but hey, once you start to become a power user and you start to getting results, you're gonna start paying me more. So always think about it in tiers and work your way up to it, right? Maybe you start off with that low entry point product, and then you work your way to a mid-market product, and then work your way to an enterprise high ticket offering. And I know, Damien, you've done this to kind of wrap up here. I know with Go Mobile, right? You have this offer, and you have different packages, right? You have kind of the base package, which you get access to software, but hey, you have bolt-on services, and because you understand that some of those people, maybe they don't want to do it themselves. They want help, right? And so you have those different levels.
Correct. Absolutely. I got to tell you, you are a power educator. You're not about a power user. You're a power educator. This has been an absolute fire hose of incredible strategy. Very, very heavy in strategy. And so I hope you guys have taken massive notes. For those of you that are asked for the replay, we drop these on YouTube. So like I said, if you're watching this now on YouTube, like and subscribe to this channel and hit the notifications so you'll know when we drop this on YouTube. Mark, this has been great. I was going to take you through the lightning round and all that stuff. But dude, you got to go, and you got a meeting and an appointment. Maybe you can share what's the best advice you've ever received, and we'll wrap up with that, and everybody will give you a big sign on.
I think I've already said it, and that is be great at one thing. And I know it's easier said than done. And I had a very, very difficult time doing it. And I'm sure, anyone on here that's an entrepreneur, you find it very, very difficult, right? Because you want to go in 1,000 different directions. I don't know about you, but like my mind is always going 100 miles a minute, and it took me forever. And like, I didn't really so Pay Kickstart, before I built Pay Kickstart, we had lots of different apps that we built, and we'd make money from them, but it wasn't until, I really sat down and focused on Pay Kickstart and say, like, I'm going to focus only on this. And I worked on it for 7 or 8 years. And finally it got acquired, and we had great sustainable recurring revenue off of it. And it wasn't until I actually did that and focused and tried to be the best at that when really things started to click. And it opened my eyes to being like, what, if you're just the best at one thing, it can really help to just all aspects of your business. And it doesn't spread yourself thin. So just be great at one thing.
All right. Well, with that, I want everybody to give you a proper sign off. If you want Mark Thompson, if you enjoyed this and you would like him to come back on and share a whole nother round of strategy, then you guys need to give him some love right now. Just come off of mute. Go ahead and say how much you appreciated this knowledge dump today. Go ahead.
Hey, much appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Excellent.
Very
Appreciate
informative.
Thanks, Mark.
Perfect
everything
point.
that you shared. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All good.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I apologize for having to kind of wrap this up, but yeah, if we want to do a follow-up call, I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. I'm more than happy to kind of, expand on something if you'd like. Okay.
All right, man, go get to that appointment. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
You've been watching the Go Mobile Happy Hour Hangout today with knowledge bombs from Mark Thompson. I hope you've enjoyed this session today, and get ready to come back for the next one. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. You're watching the Go Mobile Happy Hour Hangout. Take care, everybody. Go mobile or go home.